We're pleased to have with us today the folks from Growth Dynamics, Sarah and Charlie. And what's Growth Dynamics is really a company that's designed to help salespeople sell and be much more effective at the selling process. So in effect, Rep Fabric, we're really good at helping you guys get in the seats, helping you track your sales and kind of organizing you hopefully without too much effort. And what Charlie and Sarah are excellent at is really helping you get to answers of whether or not you're going to engage customers in deals and opportunities. So a couple of real pushes for them is to make you guys as efficient as possible, also effective as salespeople. And then lastly, really drive your discussions so that they go from just being great discussions to great discussions that end in answers for whether or not you're going to do business with that customer. So with that, Charlie and Sarah work primarily with rep groups, and they've been a great friend to Rep Fabric, and we're really excited to have them today because I think you're going to see something from webinars that you haven't seen from us before. And not to ratchet up the pressure on Charlie too much, but he's a very dynamic speaker, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So Charlie, with that, go ahead.
Wow, that certainly ratcheted down. So anyway, thank you all. I know everybody's busy out there, and I suppose some of you are pretty tired of the remote learning model, but here we are again. So we'll try to create as much value as we can with the hour that we have carved out of your day. Sarah's going to run the PowerPoint to keep us moving. So if you hear me call her name out, if there's any other Sarahs, I apologize for the confusion. This is a program that I found myself responding to a lot of our clients with the struggle of getting their salespeople refocused and re-energized when the coronavirus impact started to really take over the way we all went to business. There are a ton of us out there that are feeling a lot more comfortable in the face-to-face role of the days gone by before March 16th. And there are some of us that are so comfortable with that we're really not realizing how important it is to make the transition from the days before to the days after the shutdown. So this is my my version of not being a victim, how to make yourself more valuable in the marketplace today, even though the conditions have changed. And the topic, the title of the program is, it's not a conditions problem, it's an equipment challenge. So I want to walk you through a few things today to see if we can help you make the transition, get refocused on the things you've got to be doing to be the most efficient, effective, and in a way, the most lethal sales performer, or have the most lethal sales agency that you can put out there on the street. So without any further ado, Sarah, if you'll take us to the first slide. So what are we talking about? And this is pretty simple in a concept, but it's not necessarily real simple to address. But too often we get overwhelmed when we face conditions that seem too challenging or unlike anything we've ever seen before. And frankly, this pandemic situation, I'm not that far away from my 65th birthday. I've been in sales basically since I was 15 years old. This is a first. I've never seen anything shut down basically a nation of business people the way this pandemic stopped all of us in our tracks. So this is what we're trying to do. It can be overwhelming. And what I find that is really challenging for people is they tend to lose focus on the things that they can control and get sidetracked and get too drawn to the things that you cannot control. And I've got a list of 5 things here that are commonly excuse anchors for a lot of people in sales. The weather. I couldn't go out and make the calls because of the weather. Well, you know what? None of us are magic enough to control the weather. So, but I hear a lot of weather related, the weather stopped business, the weather stopped this, we couldn't get here, we couldn't get there because of the weather. The second one that I hear is people losing track of is they get too focused on the competition or what others are doing. Well, we cannot control what our competitors have decided is their best way to go to market. If they want to go low and deep on pricing and eliminate margin, That's their business, but we can't let it control ours. We can't control, there's nobody that's got a sales training program that's powerful enough to make your customers buy. And that's one of the things that we're always dealing with our client base. Hey, Charlie, email comes in. I've been chasing these guys for 5 weeks. How do I make them buy? I haven't heard back from them. How do I make them call me back? Well, we can't control what those people do. And when you lose effort and energy trying to make someone do something when you have no control of them, it's really just a waste of time, and it distracts you from doing the work you should be focused on. There's supply chain issues. There's a shortage of truckers. There's a shortage of stuff coming out of the ports on either coast where we can't get stuff into the marketplace. We can't replenish inventories for our customers. That's just a reality. I can't make a manufacturer in China produce product any quicker. I can't make the transportation or the border and security people, I can't make them unload or license ships to be unloaded any quicker than they can. I can't make the highways any safer or any more consistent. I can't make the ports of entry in the north or in the south. We've got no control over those things. So we've got to learn how to sell, understanding that those conditions are always going to be an impact that we just have to deal with. And then there's the economy. We went through this 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 2007, 2008. We did have the rug pulled out from under us all then as well. And I hope everybody learned the economy is what the economy is. It's not different for me than it is for anybody else, nor is it different from you than it is for your competitors. The economy just tells us how we've got to play the game a little bit differently. So if you've got people who are saying nobody's there, nobody's buying, maybe not as many people are buying, but there's still business to be had. And the real sales professionals are the people that don't let that stop them from doing what they're going to do. And then there it is, number 5, the coronavirus. I'm here in PA. We still have a lot of government restriction. There's still a lot of things that are shut down. I know some of you that are out in the Midwest or down in Texas, Florida, Georgia, don't have as many restrictions now, but we're all still impacted by it. And as much of all of the things on that list that I wish I could control, the coronavirus is number 1, but none of us have the power. Anthony Fauci and the scarf lady and all those people, as much as they want to, they can't. So what's beyond our control? The weather, wet, cold, sunny, windy, snow on the ground, drought, whatever it is, it is. We just got to keep moving. Competition, pricing and programs, pre-existing relationships, whether your competitors tell the whole truth or the sales truth, or whether they flat out lie and just say me too to your best competitive advantage. Can't control it. We've just got to be better than it. Logistics. Product is what product is. Availability is what availability is. Those of you that have sold plumbing products, bathtubs were a real struggle for a while. PEX products were a real struggle for a while. Those of you that were selling PPE, you couldn't get it fast enough, but you could have sold it as fast as you got it. It's out of your control. We've just got to deal with it. The economy. Look, we've all got to realize the pie has gotten smaller. It's gotten smaller for just about everybody. What you need to do is to figure out how do you just get a bigger piece of a smaller pie. That you can control, but the size of the pie, not under your control. And again, the coronavirus, look, we're going to be dealing with this for a while. I wish it weren't true, but it is what it is. So let's just go to work. All right, next, Sarah. So today, I want you to consider these 3 situations. And as you look at the list that's on the screen, they're real generic. There's nothing fancy or like how did he even come up with that idea? Well, just going out for a bike ride, that's pretty simple. If you've got a bike, you get it out of the garage, you put air in the tires, and off you go. All right? Most of us can come up with the simple equipment necessary to just go out and take a casual bike ride. If you like to fish, you buy a fishing rod, you get a bucket of bait, you go find a stream or a pond, or you stand in the surf, throw it out there and see if you can catch some fish. Seems pretty simple. Seems like we should be able to do it as long as you're not supposed to be at work. Go out and catch all the fish you'd like to catch. And then here's one that's even kind of a little simpler yet. Just go out for a nice hike. Now, one of the things that I've done for the last 8 to 12 weeks is I have made a commitment to get out and hike as much as I can. The Philadelphia area is beautiful, rolling hills, great countryside, a lot of open land. But I just want to go out and stretch my legs, get some energy. Those are 3 things that on the face of what you see on the screen, pretty much everybody has the condition. The conditions are there, pretty simple. And having the right equipment doesn't require a big investment. But what happens if we change things just a little bit? All right? So this is what happens. Here's that bike ride. And if you look at the picture on the left, this is a guy in Manhattan. He's on a fixie. He's wearing a suit. He's wearing dress shoes. He's got his shoulder bag over his shoulder. Pretty calm. Not a lot of equipment required to just go for a bike ride. But when we put the conditions on the right-hand side, you see something dramatically different that still qualifies as going out for a bike ride. But we're in extreme conditions, extreme elevation, extreme weather, extreme traction required on the bicycle. So we didn't have a problem with the condition as long as we have the right equipment to our disposal and we know how to use it. Bike ride on the left, go out and do it. Don't get too sweaty that you become an olfactory distress to your customers. Bike ride on the right, a lot more preparation, a lot more investment, a lot more required to succeed and get home safely. Same thing, different conditions, different equipment. All right? Next one. Now, these are real extreme. Going out to catch some fish. Well, if you want to go out and catch trophy fish, you've got to be with the right equipment, which is what we have on the left. Guy's got a dinghy on the front end of that boat out on the foredeck. He's got outriggers with some probably big badass hooks out there. He'll bring in anything. He'll go deep to out this way. We talk about going out to the canyon off the coast of New Jersey, going 45 miles off the coast, can survive there all day. There probably isn't a fish too big for this guy on the left. But here on the right, it's kind of an absurd example, and I realize that. But we've got Sam and Sarah Suburbanite face to face with the shark from Jaws. Now, this is not the right equipment to deal with these conditions. These people just went from fishing to being the bait. Without the right equipment, without the right preparation, without the right forethought, the outcome's going to change dramatically. This is not an analogy of sales success on the right. On the left, we're going to go whale hunting, basically. We're going to go after those accounts that can make or break your quarter, and in some cases, make or break your year. So again, let's go out and catch some fish. 2 different conditions, much different requirements as far as equipment goes. And then lastly, my third example, let's just go out for a hike. Well, the family on the left, look, it's mom and dad and their kids. And they've got a backpack with some peanut butter and jelly, and probably if I packed it, there'd be 5 or 6 packs of Swedish fish in there, a couple jugs of water. They picked up some hiking sticks along the ground. Somebody's got sneakers on. It looks like somebody's got loafers. let's just go out and kill a couple of hours and get a little exercise. Going out for a nice hike around the neighborhood. Well, then we've got the guy on the right. Fundamentally, he's got his entire existence on his back. He's equipped for warm weather, cold weather, 15 miles or 15 days worth of hiking. He's got everything he could need to deal with the toughest thing that he could encounter. Both pictures show you somebody going out for a hike, but it's not the same thing. The conditions on the left, hire anybody, go sell, high transaction, price-driven business, no real competition, no worries about who you run into, what you're going to encounter. Or you come up with someone who says, you know what, I've got a real challenge. I think I'll go end to end on the Appalachian Trail. I'll go from Maine to Georgia. I'm going to do it all self-sufficiently. I don't need a hike manager to make sure I succeed. I've got what it takes to make it all the way through, as far as commitment, as far as equipment, as far as the right attitude and the willingness to see myself through from start to finish. Once again, easy sales, much more difficult sales. The world changes and requires you to be equipped significantly differently depending on the conditions that you're operating in. This is selling as it is today. 4 months ago, we were out there on a hike. No problem, peanut butter and jelly, you know, maybe a hammock to hang in the trees. Today, you got to be all prepared to stick it out and make the best out of a tough situation. All right? So what are some of the differences? So we had differences in weather. Hey, I want to make this hike. Please, no snow, no rain, no sun, no drought. We've just got to put up with it. All right? We've got the right logistics. I'm going to get dropped off. I'm going to get picked up. I'm going to know where the food is. I'm going to know how to get it. All right? Competitors. Well, it's just me against the elements. I can't change the elements. I'm just going to, there may be some other people on the trail. I may want to hike faster than they do. I may want to set my personal record for how long I cover 100 miles. There are a lot of different things there. The cost of it. Well, if you're going to ride a bike in January in the mountains, that's a different investment. The economy of that requires you to spend probably 3 to 4 times what you would for a regular bike to just get around town. You've got to be prepared to pay the price for the right equipment. All right? The coronavirus. You got to get out and away from it. You got to be safe. You got to be smart. You got to be brave. You got to understand risk versus reward. You got to understand legalities. You got to understand the nature of human beings and how you deal with it. And they're all different. I've run into a couple very interesting situations relative to these differences. I do a lot of work with the AMAR group, those of you that are part of AMAR, plumbing, heating, in that world. And some of the big wholesalers down south, you're not allowed on their property, but you can take their people to lunch. I find that to be a very interesting change of expectations. There's a lot of reasons why. Some of it's the legality of it and the liability and exposure. But a lot of it makes you wonder, how valuable do they think those salespeople are when they limit that opportunity as much as they have? So there are a lot of things that are changing in the marketplace that either you as a salesperson have to be prepared to manage, or you as a sales manager, whether you're the owner or just the sales manager, the requirements of your job have changed as well. Selling from home, selling remotely, selling with limited access, even if the markets have opened up, it has created enormous requirements for a different way to equip your salespeople. So we've got to be aware of all these differences and how they change what was second nature to most of us up until the middle of March. Sarah? So here are the things that we think you've got to invest in right now, equipment-wise. So selling during a pandemic or a lockdown with restrictions, the first piece of equipment that I coach all my people, whether it's the companies from the top down or the salespeople on the street, is to have the right attitude. If you wake up every day and say, I can't sell like this, you're not going to sell like that. If you look at it as just a new set of challenges instead of a problem, you can be creative in the way you approach business. But if your attitude is, I'm dead before I go out the door, save your company the trouble and tell them you can't go out the door any longer. All right? If you can do it, you will do it. So prove that you can or can't do it by actually making the calls. Don't just decide because other people have said it sucks that it sucks for you too. Prove it, but prove it with the best intent and the best support. And the next one I have on the list is an abundance mentality. There are very few products that I think any of you sell that own so much of the market share that you can't actually grow your business. When you stop thinking about when you start to think about the opportunities that are there as opposed to the business that you haven't gotten, you change yourself from a scarcity mentality to an abundance mentality. Salespeople with an abundance mentality make money. Salespeople with a scarcity mentality make managers crazy. So you've got to have the attitude as the first piece of equipment you've got to fine tune. Second is the commitment. I will do whatever it takes. It's not whether or not I like to do it. It's not whether or not I used to do it. It's not whether or not it's what my job was in February. It's whatever it takes. Can you learn to use social media? Can you learn to use remote training and virtual access and do a program like that we're doing tonight or today? Can you understand that the clock, it doesn't have as much control of your business access as it once did? And one of the things that we need people to be aware of, getting up and getting started is critical. There's actually a measurement that people take, particularly with inside sales forces. How long does it take someone on your team to make their first dial? So they measure this statistic called TTD, time to dial. Some people sit down and go to work. Other people avoid sitting down. Other people are addicted to SportsCenter's second rerun. You've got to make sure that your people are committed to starting the day as early and as in as healthy a mindset as possible for them to give themselves the best chance to succeed. Number 3, behavior. Now, what do we mean by behavior? Behavior is all the activities required to succeed as a professional salesperson, not a peddler, a professional salesperson, a trusted advisor. So that includes prospecting, that includes servicing, that includes the proper follow-up, that includes generating referrals and introductions, which are even more efficient and more effective. But the part that really matters is keeping score. And when John and I talked about this, we started thinking about what is it that our two businesses do? Well, I teach people what it is, how much behavior they need to make or do, execute. I teach people how to make that behavior more efficient, more effective, more decision-based, not just discussion-based. And I give people the tools so their time isn't spent talking to people that are already dead. All right? John lets you count it to make sure you're actually doing it. So when you get an opportunity to have the best trained salespeople with a program like Rep Fabric that gives you the best opportunity to measure whether or not it's getting done, to go from I think I made enough calls this week to I can prove I made enough calls this week, that's what the type of equipment you need to have in the behavior mindset. Product knowledge. Look, I believe we can overwhelm the marketplace with product knowledge. but you've got to have it. And in today's marketplace where you have restricted access, limited length of contact with people, you better be prepared with the safety net of product knowledge before you pick up a phone or send an email. We don't have the opportunity to, well, let me go look that up. Let me pull it up on my phone. Let me download something. You've got to be more prepared with the information about what you'd like to sell than you've ever been prepared before. And you better be able to make sure you can track what it is you told them so that you don't just repeat yourself over and over again. So that's where call notes and things like that in CRMs, Rep Fabric, and those products really give you an opportunity to be more information managed than you've ever been. And then lastly, yep, there's the commercial for growth dynamics, tactical training and expertise. We're huge on disqualifying opportunities. In today's marketplace, there are too many people that will steal your time. There's too many people that are interested but have no intention of buying. They're always looking for what's out there. They're just not willing to make a commitment. So we think salespeople need to be told how to go to know, how to stop a pursuit before it becomes a losing proposition. We think people should know how to set the groundwork for the conversations that you want to have in your sales interactions, electronically or face-to-face through this type of media, or when you can actually get in and see a customer. How do you take control of the sales process? And then how do you take it to go from, let's talk about this, to will you actually make a decision, even if it's no? And are we allowed to talk business now, or are you still managing how much interaction we get with your people? These are the most fundamental pieces of equipment that we think sales forces should have in their backpacks every day. Attitude, behavior, and informational power is what we need. All right? So whether it's tactical stuff or product knowledge. Sarah? And then we get to this wild card of working from home. This has been driving people crazy. I doubt a lot of people that are out there wanted to be in inside sales. You're not in inside sales. You just have to be prepared to do some of it from home. You're not even in your own offices. So here's 6 things that we think everybody working from home should be very disciplined about. Make your sales calls in blocks of time. Don't just sit down and say, we're going to make as many calls as we can make. Make appointments with yourself to make dials. Don't just hope that you make enough dials. But learn to pace yourself and get on a roll. Stay with it. Don't let the results stop you. Make your calls, record them, be accountable. All right? Know what you're calling about. There are a couple of our customers have said their customers are telling them, if you don't have a topic, you can't have an appointment. So no, I'm stopping in to see if you need anything. That's peddling. That's the old way. That's not allowed anymore. So you cannot expect your client or your prospect to do unwanted work when they're already understaffed and working harder than they thought they should have been anyway. Know what you're talking about. Be prepared. All right? Check on their people. Are you okay? Deal with the person before you deal with them as a prospect. So if they're not comfortable, if they're stressed, if there's personal problems, that they're overworked, give them a chance to open that door and let you see if you can be at least nurturing and be sympathetic. All right? Ask for permission. How long is this call allowed to go? Don't just start. Hey, I have 15 minutes. Can we get the work done in 15 minutes? Can we get to the topics you wanted to talk about? I've got 20 minutes. Make sure you have a clock, start and stop on all your calls. It makes you look more professional. You've got to manage your call more strategically to hit your start and finish lines. be a time manager as much as a call manager. All right. Slow it down. I find too many people that have gotten back into selling over the phone have started to sound like telemarketers. Hi, how are you? Let me tell you what you need to buy. It's not a welcome change in the marketplace today. We typically don't pay a lot of respect to telemarketers. Don't let your people turn into marketers. Trust the power of no. I've got an opportunity. I'd like to talk to you about it. I'm just not sure if it's a good opportunity for you. Just because somebody else bought it from you doesn't mean everybody's going to buy it from me. You should be able to get the right people having the right conversations and eliminating the wrong conversations that just increase your cost of sales. These are the things that we've got to keep track of. Always know the next step. So there's 3 questions you should be able to get answered on every call. What does it take to do business? What happens next? And when does it happen? And so, again, I'm going to go back. I'm an older guy. I was not big on technology through the beginning of my career. The more I rely on the electronic capabilities, the data portals that you can access, the products like Rep Fabric, call notes, here's what I've done, here's what we agreed to do, here's the next step, and here's what it's going to happen, and you can schedule it while you're there. Get your people past this, well, I told them I'd call them back in 2 weeks. That's just extra calls. Set the next appointment before you leave the one you're on, whether it's on the phone, whether it's in an email exchange, or whether you're actually live. Don't rely on follow-up to be efficient and effective. It's typically persistence is the tool of people that can't manage sales success. So be persistent on the call, not after it, and keep notes of what the agreements are. All right, next. And look, I'm a big believer in the power of triangles, the strength that they give you to keep 3 things equally in balance and to be supportive when forces and other things impact what you're trying to do. So these are the 3 things I think you should be helping your people manage. The activity of being physically fit and physically healthy. This is a time to kind of step into your employees' lives. There's a lot of stress that's going on, a lot of stress for everybody. Are they being physically fit? Encourage your people to get outside, to take some walks, to get out of their houses, to ride a bike, to go do something physically active. Get your people to stop driving around and stopping at McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, or wherever it is they go because it's convenient to drive and eat at the same time. That's probably not a good plan long term. So we think you should be asking your people to manage their physical well-being more now than ever before. Stress, it's growing and it's getting more and more difficult for people to deal with. Mentally, we think you should be asking your people to invest in themselves, to learn the lines that they don't know very well, to learn more about business. You should be selling profitability, not products. And the way you sell profitability is to be a good business partner, not a great product partner. So get your people to tune up their lives mentally on good business practice, good profitability thinking, best practices on the mental side. And then lastly, financially, salespeople should know their numbers. And so again, it's something that we teach people. Where are you according to your goals and your plans for the month, for a quarter, for the year? Are you financially on track? Have you earned the money or the commissions that you thought you were going to earn? And are you up to date on tracking that stuff? And the more people become aware of their own finances and what it requires them to be financially responsible, the better business people and the better business partners they're going to be for the marketplace. Physical, mental, financial, tighten up, make improvements, and make commitments to the activities to give you the power of that stuff. So please, just 1 second. No. No.
Sorry, guys. At Charlie's house, the neighbors have trees that came down in a storm,
Yeah.
and now the dogs are barking at the chainsaw and the workers across the street.
He's not home. You gotta go away. John's not here. Bye.
And they're looking for the kids. I think once quarantine's over, all of the dogs are going to be lonely and everyone goes back to work.
All right. So, good. Next, Sarah. Thank you for your patience. I apologize. And then here's our collection of quick hitters. So number 1, the conditions are the conditions. Deal with it. Don't fight with it. You can't change it. Don't burn energy trying to wrestle with things you can't defeat. Number 1. Number 2, it's not happening to you and you alone. So this is not a time for your people to be victims. It is what it is. It's happening to all your competitors. It's happening to every business that's out there. You've just got to understand you're not the center of the universe. Just go to work and you're going to find there's opportunity. 3, this is why they call it work. It's not second nature to a lot of us right now. We've got to learn to do things differently. We've got to learn. We can't just run a route and stop in and see everybody every 2 weeks, every month. We've got to be way more prepared, and that's work. It's not just they know me, I know them, I can walk in the back door. You've got to get better, and getting better requires effort and energy. Adapt and change or die. Don't be a dinosaur in the business world. I started selling basically at 15, one thing or another, whether it was cutting my neighbor's lawns. I became a roofing contractor. I sold roofing materials. I became a sales consultant. I got involved in a lot of different things that required a lot of different selling, but the world has changed. I used to keep track of everything on paper. Doesn't work anymore. I've got to change. Cell phones. We went from Palm Pilots. We actually had these things called Rolodexes. Some of you have never seen one, but we grew up with them. It's not going to work anymore. That's where you've got to look at CRM. You've got to look at customer relationship management. You've got to talk to people like Rep Fabric and look for the efficiencies that they give you to operate as a well-oiled machine in the sales business. All right. And this is a core concept that we have at Growth Dynamics. It's time for person versus performance mastery. So really, we want you to all think of yourselves as 2 people. There's the person, and that's who you are without any role or sales performance judgment. It's just you, and then you've got to manage the performer, the person that gets out there on the stage and does the work that people applaud or boo or pay you for or throw you out if you weren't good. You've really got to learn how to take risk and manage the fact that a yes or a no isn't a personal rejection. It's just a business agreement that wasn't valid for both parties. Plus, you've got to learn how to nurture the person on the other side of the screen or the other side of the telephone. Most people are stroke deprived. Giving them genuine, honest strokes makes them believe that you care about them as a person, not just a commission opportunity. So we think these 5 things are critical for keeping your head in the game when it feels like the game is something you've never seen before. Sarah, is that the last one on that? And now, look, we've opened it up. Questions, comments, reactions to anything, bring it on. There's a whole bunch of you out there. I'd love to get a chance.
So we are going to unmute everybody. Okay, and if you want to unmute, you can unmute yourself with the button push, and that will allow you to speak, or if you prefer, you can put your questions into the poll and into the questions section. So fire away, guys. I know, Charlie, one of the things that I'd like to ask you about is the sensitive conversations that you have where you guys promote getting to a no as fast as possible. Is that something you could explain to the group? Because I think that's very beneficial. Oops, some reason I think you might be muted, Charlie. Oops. Hang on, let's see if we can. You there? How do we get this to unmute? I apologize, guys. Charlie, do you have a mute button you can push?
There we go. I'm unmuted.
Yep.
Yeah. So, John, that's a great question. So everybody can give you 5 to 10 reasons why you should buy from them or buy their product. And they're good reasons, but they only have to have one reason why it's not a good opportunity for them. If it could be a pre-existing relationship. They're doing business with their brother-in-law. Maybe they don't want to change that relationship. They don't want to ruin Christmas dinner every year. It could be that your minimum stocking order is more than they're willing to put in their inventory for a first order. It could be that their customer base they're afraid to upset their customer base by changing a manufacturer. There's the simple one of price. Although price is rarely the real objection, in their mind it's look, I'm buying something for less money. You're 5 points higher, 5 cents higher. So what most salespeople fail to do is to realize that one reason why not can trump the 15 reasons why, and they try to get someone so excited that they forget about that reason. And they end up with people that wanted to say no, but you never gave them an opportunity. So selling begins at no, not at yes. Most salespeople are afraid of the word, so they never get the right starting point. So we're huge proponents in let's try to kill it before it kills us.
And what about the idea of stopping deals? You know, I think as salespeople, I was certainly one of them, and certainly run into this all the time, that you'd rather postpone a deal because someday it might happen. Do you have any thought process or logic that says, hey, this is an opportunity that might happen someday in 20 years, but you keep it open and you're kind of believing that it's going to happen? What's some of your thoughts around that?
Well, you used a word that kind of doesn't go in the conversation, and that's the word logic. Selling is not logical, it's emotional. Human beings are emotional creatures. All buying decisions are made emotionally. There's some justification with logic. But what happens is salespeople believe in too much potential and they work with too much hope. Hope is not a sales strategy, and potential is nothing until it's realized. So we think salespeople should be able to ask tough questions where someone says, hey, yeah, look, we might be interested in this later. Well, is that really just a polite way of telling you they're not ever going to be interested, or is it real? And most salespeople think, I had a great call because they didn't throw me out. They didn't kill me. They didn't say, you sucked. Why'd you even waste our time? So great sales calls are sales calls where people actually make a decision, not just have a polite conversation about what might or might not happen. So hoping it's going to come back in 10 years or 12 years or 10 weeks or 10 months needs a lot more discipline than a lot of salespeople are willing to exercise in those circumstances. So if you're going to get a no, look, let's be honest. If we're going to get a no, do we want to get a no after we've chased for 10 weeks or after the first 10 minutes where they said, no, I had a problem with that product 5 years ago and I've never gotten over it? Okay. Some will, some won't. So what next? Go to the next opportunity.
Yep. Well, good. Well, hey, I'm gonna run just a quick poll for everybody as well. So if you guys are interested in learning more and becoming um, more knowledgeable on what growth dynamics and Charlie and Sarah do, please answer the polls. And also, here's where you can stay connected with them as well. So we're going to roll this poll out. It's simple yes, no. I'm going to run through a couple of them and give you guys a few minutes to answer those. And then we'll come back to that. Charlie, maybe you could describe a little bit about your business as well, as far as how you guys engage and what that looks like.
Thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Sure.
Yeah, we are, in a way, we're cradle to grave business development consultants. So one, it's tough to train people when they're the wrong people on a team. And we've seen a lot of that. A lot of people more than 50% of the people in sales never intended to be in sales, but for one reason or another, they ended up there. They may have good product knowledge, but they really don't know how to go out and sell, which means to collect decisions from people. So they may be good educators, but they're not good salespeople. So we try to get people, one, to focus on, do they have the right talent on the team? And we do team assessments. We can measure the skills, capabilities, and opportunity for growth inside a sales organization. So we like to start there. Then we like to help people select the right people to be on their team. And we use the science of sales assessments and behavioral assessments to help sales managers, business owners, give them the best horses to run in the race every day. And when people start with better talent, they typically get better results. And then we get into the nuts and bolts of selling. And our job is to help people go home earlier with more money in their pocket. One of the things I always want to tell my clients when we first work with them and their teams, I'm never going to coach your people to work more hours. I think one of the things we all should have realized in this pandemic shutdown was how many hours weren't being used effectively by people out on the road. And it's not that they weren't working, it's that there was a lot of inefficiencies. There was a lot of time where they weren't having the right conversations with the right people. So we get into the nuts and bolts. We train on three things. We train on the mindset of success. We train on helping people develop the right behavioral model for prospecting to make sure the top of the funnel is the biggest focus for your sales team. Are they creating enough opportunities so the right amount of revenue comes out of the bottom? And then to do that, we've got what we think is a pretty strong set of tactical exercises, tactical tactical elements, tactical concepts for people to be more efficient and more effective when they get face-to-face or electronic to electronic with the customer. We want people to be, I use the word and I use it liberally, lethal performers when they get in the sales field. To not get caught up in all that emotional baggage of, do people like me? Do they need to like me? How do you manage a sales call successfully as quickly as possible?
And Charlie, we've actually got a question from Scott Robinson along those lines. It seems easier for prospects to get you on a bus ride through email and phone calls. How do you stay off the bus when you can't get a face-to-face?
Yeah, that's a real challenge, but it's really, if you're electronic, you've still got to be question-based, not statement-based. And that is to ask people, if they're asking you for something, why are they asking? And what happens if they don't get what they want? Or getting someone to say they've got a timeline for a decision and why that timeline's important. What we find is a lot of salespeople don't qualify the opportunities that they interact with or they encounter. But for someone to be a qualified prospect, they've got to have a compelling reason to take action. And that's got to be a real reason, not because we always look at products. That's not a compelling reason. They've got to have a commitment to make a decision. So people without a decision are really just, they're just stealing your brain power from you. They've got to have the ability to access and release the funds at of whatever it is they're buying from you. If it's more expensive, they have the authority to spend more money for a like product. And then lastly, and this is the one that disrupts most people, they must have that timeline for a decision. When buyers don't have timelines, anything else can become a bigger priority, and you just get kicked to the curb over and over again. Or as Scott says, great analogy, Scott, riding the bus, waiting for them to tell you when to get off. I don't ever like people being on the bus.
You bet, you bet. Okay, well, we're going to run our next poll here about your sales team assessments, Charlie. And people are interested in learning a little bit more about that. I know a couple of folks are having problems with the responsiveness. I'm not quite sure why that's happening. It seems to be something that GoToWebinar is limiting. But in the meantime, if you guys have questions, do feel free to unmute if you'd like to join the conversation. Unmute yourself and go ahead and fire away.
Well, 119 people out there, and we can't get one question out. Oh.
And all salespeople, so that's pretty amazing.
All of a sudden, they go quiet.
So, Charlie, another question I have is, you know, a lot of today's efforts are tied around the tools that we see customers using as well. When you look at the tools and techniques that you might employ in this COVID-19, hey, customer, let's do webinars. You know, I know that with what you teach as far as getting to the know faster, understanding and qualifying their pain points and timelines for decision making, do you have anything that adjusts because of that versus what you would normally ask in sales calls? Like, in other words, because you're remote, because you're on the telephone, because you're using Zooms, for example, do you have any techniques or special traits, or is it really just same old 101 selling?
Look, this is the real challenge in this is if you look at the communication pie. So what is it that people, when they interact with you, and somebody asks you a question or makes a statement, how do you most effectively digest that information? Only 7% of what people react to is the words of the statement, of the transmission. So the other 93%, tonality and inflection and physiology, are missing from the equation. So when you're trying to work through email, for example, words are really important. I am constantly kind of bugging my clients to make better word choices about what they send out on an email. So the wrong word can kill something in a heartbeat. When you're doing remote or virtual training like we're doing today, you can at least see the expressions and the tonality and inflection, so you're at a much better advantage than just email. But staying in a type of context that keeps people emotionally engaged in the opportunity is critical. Data doesn't drive sales. Questions and why that question was asked is much more powerful in selling than, let me show you our latest testing on this product. The more information you give them, one, the more they can disagree with, because their existing vendor says our information's better, or they just decide that they can 2 + 2 isn't 4 because they don't want it to. So data-driven selling is often very difficult to manage, particularly through electronic processes where you're just sending information back and forth. It's a hard way to make money.
Makes sense.
Charlie, just a quick question for you. First off, I want to commend you on this presentation. It's probably the best webinar that I've sat through as far as a learning experience goes. So thank you for that.
Can I ask
what's that?
Can I ask who you are? Because I'm going to send you $5.
Oh, okay. David Price. I'll give you my address when this is over.
All right, that's cool.
But
Go ahead, David.
I just want to get your your feeling on, I've heard pros and cons of doing this, but in a general email before you get into subject matter, wishing someone and their family well or something like that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts just changed in the last couple weeks. Okay, so 3 weeks ago, I thought it was imperative that you at least took a moment to say to people, how are you? I think we're past that now, actually. I think people are tired of it. I think it's like saying it's just fodder. It's just something I'm supposed to say. So I think that really it's time for people to say, hey, look, I don't want to rush this. Are you okay? And are we allowed to get right to business? I think all of that, how is everybody stuff, I actually think its time has passed. I think you've got to be aware of it, but I don't think that opening, David, has the impact like, oh, that's the templated thing that everybody's doing. So I think you lose it. The personal touch of it has been lost.
Okay, good.
I think that was the answer you were looking for. You might get another $5 for that. I don't know.
We'll call it 250.
All right.
There you go. That's a deal. All right, we have 2 questions that came in. John, I hope you don't mind me jumping in here.
Yeah.
The first from Donald Lausier. I'm hoping that's correct. It says, what do you see as the best and worst impact of virtual selling? How to leverage best?
So the best and worst impact of virtual selling, first and foremost, there's too much virtual selling being done without, and I didn't mention this, and I apologize for this. Virtually everything you're doing, whether it's on an electronic email or electronic connection, whether it's virtual selling, even face-to-face selling, you should be sending people homework before your event or your action impacts them. So homework, the worst thing that can happen is they say, oh, I didn't get a chance to do that homework. The best thing that happens is they say, thank you for making us efficient on this call. I did the homework. I'm ready for you. So the best thing is it gives you an opportunity to say, hey, we've got a call at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Here's the topic. Here's the things I'd like to ask you about. Could you gather the information? So it gives you a chance to stand out as a very well prepared salesperson, not someone that's coming in with the, what do you need? I'm here. How's everything? Everything's great. So when you force them to make a commitment and to spend some of their sweat equity for the call, I think you get a much more engaged opportunity. The worst of it is people don't practice it. People try to shoot from the hip on it all the time. And they don't know their content, and they don't know how to operate the technology that they're going to work with. And look, I live in a multi-generational home. My daughter, son-in-law, wife, and my grandson live here.
Not me.
There's
not this one.
2 little kids came and knocked on the door 4 times, and finally the dogs had had enough. So that may be one of the worst things too, is we get everybody's personal life on top of the business stuff. But to me, if you can't create a differentiation between you and your competitors face to face, you're probably going to suck even more electronically. That's my belief about it. Because none of your competitors produce a piece of literature that says, buy our product, but we're really mediocre. Everybody has the best and the latest and the greatest. And so if you're relying on that to do your work, you should get out of the business. Second one, Sarah? Donald,
Yeah.
Thank you for the question.
This is from Brad Hoffmeyer. He says, one of our principals recently mentioned a requirement they had about giving phone call notes as a way to understand and record salespeople's activities. What are your thoughts on that? Any best practices?
Let me see if I got it right. I think that if you're going to make a sales call of any kind, you should record what you did. So there's an old statement that I had to learn, and I learned it the hard way. The dullest pencil has a better memory than the sharpest mind. And so I used to think I could remember everything that I needed to get done as a follow-up with customers. And what I learned was I wasn't that good at it. So I think that principals that go back and invest in products like Rep Fabric that give you a place to enter information and to put call notes in there are vitally important. And I think that in this day and age, for the time being, until we all kind of get second nature about it, I think accountabilities are critical on the management side. If you don't inspect it, you can't expect it. So I know there's some reps that have gone out and said, we need you to make 5 calls a day, 3 calls a day, 10 calls a day, depending on the industry and the footprint of the rep in the field. Whatever number of calls a day it is doesn't mean they were valid calls. They were blow-bys or stop-ins. That's not a sales call. That's being a professional visitor, and I'll never pay anybody to be a professional visitor, and I don't think any of you should either. So getting value out of that interaction, put it on a piece of paper, and I think, yeah, you have a right to ask them to prove it to you. But don't write a book after every call. So I've actually had people say to me, hey, here's all our call notes from our people. And I read it and read it and read it and read it and read it. I'm like, there's nothing happened here. You could have just said nobody was in, the opportunity's dead. But they made a Reader's Digest condensed version of a sales call, which was crap anyway.
Yeah, and actually Vin Nolan weighed in on this subject as well, because I think, Charlie, when Brad refers to principal, he was thinking of it from a manufacturer on his line card as well, and they both hold true. But what Vin brings up is relevant, which is that the principals requiring that level of note taking for each sales call makes them violate the IRS's principle of subcontractor versus employee. And that was it, the SS8 document, I think, and that obviously makes them liable for FICA taxes and things like that. So it is a slippery slope in that regard, right?
So from that legal standpoint, yes, and I've seen people get wrapped around the axle of that in some other businesses that weren't necessarily rep businesses. Look, if there's a manufacturer on here, I'd love to hear from you, but I'm going to say what I'm about to say. I've said it before, and I will never hesitate to do it. At the end of the day, I want to know if the sales numbers were produced. I don't want to know. I don't care if you made 1 call or 800 calls. If you hit the numbers that we agreed upon in your sales plan and our goal conversation with you, I shouldn't need to prove that your people sweated 50 gallons of anxiety to write enough call reports to satisfy somebody. At the end of the day, results are what we get paid for. Writing call reports is required. Now, if you're not hitting your goals, I want to have more access to your activity. If you're hitting your goals, I don't know that I want to get in the way of you being excited about the opportunity that you see. I could go sell more, but then I got to write more. I don't want to be part of that conversation. So principals, if you didn't hire the right rep, you probably wouldn't want to read what they were going to write anyway. If you hired the right rep, let them do their damn job and go sell. That's my belief.
Yep.
Hey, I'm going to jump in on, I know we're running out of time here, but for a little bit of self-importance here, TJ asked a question that says, do you offer assessments for newer reps to individually learn and grow from different from the team assessments? So the big answer to that is heck yes, we do. So Charlie, do you want to tell why or what we can do for that?
Yeah, so we offer assessments at 3 different levels, okay? If you have a candidate or you're out to hire 3 or 4 new people on your team because you're growing and expanding, we can help you figure out which ones are telling the least amount of lies in their resume. because everybody's resume is questionable at a point. So how do you know if what they're telling you is the truth? Everybody wins awards, but it's funny how those people can't sell once they get on your payroll. So we can test individual sales candidates before you hire them, and you can figure out whether or not you should even waste the breath to interview them. So we like to be part of that process. Number two, we can assess individual salespeople. And so that's to take a new person or someone who's struggling but working hard. We can give you and them a roadmap on the things they need to improve to start to produce the results that you want. And we can help you write a personal improvement plan for that person to be accountable to the things they need to do. And then you get to the big thing, which is most sales organizations are broken from the top down. And all of you owners of rep agencies there, I apologize, but in 30 plus years of working with rep agencies, what I find is a lot of rep owners don't know how to really manage a sales force, from what do we really want this agency to be to what kind of production do we need to see, what's missing from management capabilities, coaching capabilities, recruiting capabilities, down to the sales team's individual performance capabilities. So we can provide a full body MRI of your sales organism and tell you what's good, what's not as good, and what kind of work would be done and what the return on investment would be if you spent the money for that document.
And I just want to explain a little bit more. So TJ, I'm not sure where you are in your level, but this can be something you or anyone on here does as a their own personal development. We do not have to work with you through an agency or with your employer. We are able to offer executive coaching based on your sales assessment and come up with a plan for you outside of your employer if maybe they don't have the money for business development, or you're new and you want to do this on your own. It does not have to be something through anyone else. We work with individuals all day long.
Yeah.
We got a couple here. John Sauer, how do you see the role of an outside salesperson changing when the COVID restrictions are lifted? Do you see video sales calls continuing? To what degree?
It's a great question, and I'm going to give probably all of you the answer you don't want to hear. We're not going back to the way it was March 12th. We're just not. Until somebody says the coronavirus has been eradicated, I think this is the new reality. Those of you that are in AMAR, those of you that are working with Ferguson, with Morsco, with some Hajokas, with the Wynn stores, and if you're in other industries, you're working with some Wynn stores and some other things, they've basically said we're not letting salespeople back in the building. And so, and I forget which one it was in another industry. Some of the manufacturers or the distributors have said, if you don't have a subject for the appointment, you're not allowed to talk to our people. Forget about coming in. You can't even schedule an appointment. So this, in a way, is going to shake some people out of the business. There's been a lot of hiring over the last 5 to 7 years where people got hired because they were available, not because they're qualified. Whoever asked that question, I was asked this in an interview a month ago. Reps are going to have to be better. They're going to have to be better at business and how to sell profit, not products. If you can't be a better profit partner, you're going to fall by the wayside. Sales management is going to have to be on top of accountability. If you can't hold your people accountable to basic functions, you're probably not getting the maximum opportunity generated. Business owners are going to have to decide, do I want bodies or do I want production? And I hate to say it because it's personal for a lot of people. They're going to find out a lot of the people they've hired, they didn't need to hire because they're not going to have that great an impact. And so PPP money aside, when owners of companies really start looking at how they spend their money on their personnel, They're going to have to be the people that can work in the new reality of electronic first, face-to-face second, people that really know how to be disciplined without having a route they can run to say they were out there in their territory. There's a lot of people taking long lunches, a lot. And they're still doing it at home, but they're not losing windshield time. We've gotten a lot of time back because we're not in cars. Make sure they use it.
All right. I think we just have 2, maybe 3 left. So Carl Hayden has a question about homework, and I know this is a really big piece of what we believe in.
Yeah.
But he says, how do you word homework in an introductory email or after you set up the meeting and the agenda? I think that's probably a big point that a lot of people might be struggling with right now.
Yeah, so we really don't send homework on an introductory because we don't know if there's anything for them to do homework on. What we use there is a tactic of ours called verbal business cards, which are, it's a business card except it's spoken and it's meant to create interest and action, not just here's my name, phone number, address, and what lines we have. We think it's got to be an emotional connection to get people to interact. Homework on the appointment it deals with a couple things. Let's talk about being efficient with the time that we have. I'm going to be calling you tomorrow at 10. Here's the topics I'd like to discuss. I'll be prepared. Can you gather what information? So you've got to tell them what you want to talk about and what decisions they should be willing to make. And it's not a one-call close. Decisions about whether or not we go to your buying committee, decisions about whether or not you request samples. So homework has got to be, what do they need to bring so that you can do your best work for them? And there's a lot of different ways to word it. So for me to give one stock answer with 100 people on the line, I apologize. I got to be pretty general at that point. Whoever asked, you're welcome to send me an email and we'll back and forth or even do a Zoom call together.
All right, this one's from Dave Fitzgerald. Do you have any tips or ideas on how to entice field sales reps and managers to embrace technologies to become more efficient? Reps are, I don't know what that, predators of habit.
Creatures, I think.
Creatures.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you for auto-correcting me. 20 to 25 years of habits are tough to change idea. So at the heart of this sounds like a expectations call or expectations discussion more than anything. Would you agree?
Look, there's nothing fair about this question and there's nothing fair about the answer, and I apologize. So it's called hunger, okay? Some people are going to resist. I mean, I'm still amazed at the number of people I go out and you see. Look, I'll be 65 in October, and I meet guys that are my age on the sales teams that I've been called in to work with, and I meet Joe, and Joe's 63 years old, and people tell me that Joe's wife types all his emails. I've actually got a client right now where one of the salespeople, every email that goes out to a client, his wife types it, or he's in the office and gets one of the admin people to type it because he can't do it. I'm surprised at how many people I run into that just can't open email. I just don't think employers should allow it. I'd love to say, well, we got to figure out how to accommodate these people. It's a tough world right now, and I don't have the warm and friendly answer that everybody would like. People are going to have to make some decisions based on the realities of the marketplace and what's required to go to market. I wish we could snap our fingers, but we can't, and find that space for everybody. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, Walter, I responded to your question and I'm just not sure, but his question about sales calls reports, so I'm not sure what he means. So Walter, if you are still on, either unmute and fill us in or send me an answer back, because I don't know.
I'm unmuted, Sarah.
Oh, perfect. Let's hear it, sir.
The question is this: I've heard about call reports for decades. Okay, I'm going on 71, Charlie. So,
Okay.
and I do write my own emails, and
I'm renewed. Thank you.
I've never been a fan of call reports. What I've always been about is after a sales call or meeting with a group of people or an individual, to send an email back outlining what was discussed and what the expectations are. Can I have your comments on that?
Can you say that again?
Sending back an email
Yeah.
to the people in the meeting or on the call of what was discussed and what the expectations are, and effectively that is a call report.
Absolutely. And there's a tactic that we ask people to use called review, recap, remind, right? So you send a review, recap, remind email to people. Let's review the decisions that we make. Let's recap the activities that we're both responsible for. And here's a reminder on when it's going to happen.
Exactly.
I just did an exercise with one of my clients about when a territory manager for a manufacturer comes in and they go crazy in front of a customer, making promises of prices, discounts, free freight allowed. You don't have to have a minimum stocking order. And you're there and you know it's absolutely not true. You better have everything in writing. You better get it out as quickly as possible. And I gather from the tone of how you said that, Victor, you're the guy that does it that way immediately. There's just so many things that could make sales more difficult if you don't have a record of what everyone agreed to do. Look, Rep Fabric sponsored us here today. I've referred John and his people to a bunch of my clients. I've had nobody say, oh, thanks for the referral, but we're changing. So the products work. And it's buying insurance for your business. And I don't know why people don't want to buy the insurance.
Thank you.
So thank you for your question, or Walter, not Victor, I'm sorry. And thank you for being off mute for us. Is that it?
We have one more, if Walter is all good. All right, this is from Dawn. She says, when you are reaching out to get appointments, what is better for securing that appointment, especially prospecting? An email, phone calls, emails followed up with phone calls? How do we get them to give us time? How do we make sure our request stands out?
I'm going to throw everybody a curveball here on this last question. The more you sell, the less attention you're going to get. So stop selling. When people think of the word salesperson, most of the connotations are not the most positive things you've ever heard. So when you do what makes you look, act, and sound like a salesperson, they're probably going to go next, delete, 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 hang up, erase, whatever. So what you've got to do is figure out how to think like the prospect instead of the salesperson. And so we think you need to incorporate emotional context words. Most of the people that we're having conversations with are worried about timelines for delivery, upset about a lack of warranty follow-up, disappointed in the lack of options to meet their customers' demands. So what you've got to do is think like the prospect and think about what they're worried, frustrated, angry, upset, nervous, confused, overwhelmed, pissed off about, and interact with them first in that way so that they think, oh, Dawn knows what it means to live in my chair every day. I think I'd like to talk to Dawn. When you sell from a seller-centric perspective, you sound like your competitors. And if you sound like your competitors, and that means everybody's the same value, they go to the one thing that they can measure as better or worse, and that's price. And that's when margin gets cut, profitability dies. Don't sell to have your first impact on your customers.
And I think, John, it would be helpful, if not that we need to know this, but are these cold calls, are these other people? Because there's always a better way to get in if you have an introduction.
Yeah. Yeah, referrals and introductions make life a lot easier. I've existed for 32 years in this business, and I am, I've had more people tell me how much I need marketing. And they can't sell marketing. They all sound the same, so I've never bought marketing, and frankly, I've never needed it. So referrals and introductions cut through the clutter of cold calls. All right?
John, can I launch that last poll?
Yeah, let me go ahead and launch the last poll. And you know, everybody. Sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
No, I'd say, and so the last poll is about hiring. Charlie, do you want to talk a minute or two about the change in job market now, from where we were before coronavirus to where we might be now, and how growth dynamics plays into that? Or
yeah. So look, I also had part of our business was in the recruiting realm, and from 2007 to 2012, it was a tough business, but there were candidates out there. And as we got closer to 2012, 13, 14, it got harder and harder and harder because unemployment was going lower and lower and lower. And so we ended up, I actually got out of the recruiting business. I didn't feel like, I thought that what candidates wanted from prospective employers was a disjointed value. And I didn't feel comfortable recommending some people that they were willing to hire. So I wanted to kind of eliminate some of my exposure to have to recruit people twice. But right now, up until March, you couldn't find people. I had clients all the time saying, just find us a body. Well, that's not the best technology. But now there's a lot of people between jobs. The market's soft. There's people want to go back to work but can't go back to work, so they're applying for new jobs. Well, we can give you testing that says, is this person recommended, not recommended? Are they worthy of consideration, or are they an ideal candidate and you should act quickly? We can tell you not just if they can sell, but will they sell? We can tell you what kind of management they'll thrive under. We can tell you what kind of training they're most likely going to need. And that if you just Google impact of bad hires and read some of the documentation and the white papers, particularly if you look up stuff by a company called Objective Management Group.
I actually have that on our website, and I would be happy to email it to anyone who wants to use the bad hire calculator.
Yeah. You just can't afford to put a saddle on a horse that's not going to run the race for you and give you a good chance of winning day after day. A lot of people, the best sale they make is when they get hired and then they go dormant. So we think, in the best interest of everybody, test, use the science of selection, stop trusting your gut. Just because you're a great salesperson doesn't mean you're a great judge of real qualified talent. Buy a little bit of insurance, talk to some experts, improve your odds. That's where we are. So if we can help you qualify candidates, please check yes, and we'll make sure we follow up. All right?
Yeah, one, we need to do a little self-promotion here. John, you gave us a great platform, and we hope everyone enjoyed today. If you liked what we did today, please, we'll get you on our mailing list, but please reach out. We have a high-performance sales program launching in next week, a week from Wednesday, all virtual, so it doesn't matter where you are in the country. So Charlie, can you talk a little bit about that program and how it maybe works with some of the things you talked about today?
Yeah, so we know that sales training is really behavior modification. So this is a program that's basically 11 months long, hour and a half every other week, and we take people through mindset, tactical, behavior, prospecting stuff. And we really build on it, building block by building block by building. And we really give people an opportunity to find out what makes them work or not work as well as they can, or to the level that they'd like in the sales business. We're non-denominational, meaning we don't sell our services to one particular technology or one particular industry. And we'll give people a money back guarantee. We know people are worried about investing in people right now. But if your people get in the program and say it's not for them, you just put your hand up and we give you your money back. We're not going to have people pay for training they don't believe in. So look, we've got a long 30-year track record of success of changing people and changing companies for the better. And if you're interested, we'll have a no pressure, no expectation conversation with you and let you decide if you want to partner up with Growth Dynamics in growing your sales force and your revenues.
And or yourself. Again, we don't have to, it can be individual as well. There's no requirement to be attached to a company. So
yes.
Well, hey, thanks very much, guys. And to the folks on the line, again, thank you, and I hope this has been energizing for you. I know we're all struggling in the current situations that we're in. I think Charlie and Sarah do a great job for inspiring you to be the best salespeople you can be, and so we're very glad to have had them here today. Thank you very much, and we will certainly be following up where if you've expressed interest in learning a little bit more about them and what they do, they'll be reaching out to you and generally taking polls to indicate that. So so once again, I mean, I think Charlie, if you're willing at some point for the next round, maybe we run down a few more months down the road as conditions change, we'll bring you back and
good.
Kind of see what other techniques and capabilities that everybody needs to bring to bear as they go out and sell. So you guys are the best reps on the planet. Go out, kick some butt, sell something, and thanks for attending the webinar here today.
John, thanks for hosting us. Everybody go on out there, have a great day, and go make some money, all right? Take care.
Right. Take care, guys.